So giving a nod to his team there, but also pushing back very hard on these continued baseless claims being made by the president. Amara?
Kevin Liptak at the White House, thank you very much. Let's discuss more of this with Shan Wu. He is a former federal prosecutor, defense attorney, and a CNN legal analyst, and he's joining us now from Washington. Shan, great to see you. Let's go first to Pennsylvania, and can you tell us more about what happened there? Because it sounded like the judge was a bit frustrated, saying, look, there's no specific allegations being made, no evidence being presented. You don't have a case.
Absolutely, Amber. I think this judge was just the latest in a series of judges kind of fed up with the Trump team's weak legal arguments. I said in the piece back on November 8th for CNN that it was time for the Trump legal team to put up or shut up, and they haven't done either. I mean, judge after judge has rebuked them for not having any actual evidence. Even their claims are inconsistent. You hear the president publicly, Rudy Giuliani, the so-called mastermind, talking about fraud, and yet also Giuliani publicly has said this is not a fraud case. So they're all over the board.
So if anyone is keeping count, I think that's 30 plus legal cases that have basically fallen apart for President Trump and his team. Why are his lawyers and President Trump himself continuing to put up a fight? I mean, do they have a path?
I don't think they have a legal path. I mean, the president's motivations, as has been speculated about, may really be political or face-saving. But his lawyers are really getting themselves into hot water. I mean, these are such weak claims that they could be sanctioned for them for bringing frivolous lawsuits, and frankly, they should be. Not only that, some of his lawyers have made very disparaging statements about the courts, calling the Pennsylvania judiciary an activist machine. If I got out in front of the courthouse steps and said that about a case I was in, I'd find myself right back in there facing sanctions as well as probably a gag order.
Yeah, well, let's stay on the Supreme Court because it ruled against New York's restrictions on religious gatherings. Tell us more about, what we're going to see with this new court, because this was really the first significant indication that the power dynamics at the Supreme Court have really shifted. But also, it almost sounded like there was some bitterness or some, personal anger, would I venture to say, when you were reading some of the opinions written by the judges.
Oh, I agree, Amara. It was really a remarkable decision, actually, because this was an unsigned opinion, and typically this was striking down the New York restrictions on COVID, saying that violated freedom of religion. It was an unsigned opinion, which typically the court does to, one, speak with a unanimous voice, and two, to make it seem like this is not a big deal, it's not a big, important opinion. But instead, it generated as much controversy as any major opinion does. And in many ways, it is a major opinion. It's the first one that shows the new extreme conservative majority, with Amy Coney Barrett joining in on this. And it immediately shunted Chief Justice Roberts off to the side. He ends up voting with the liberal portion of the court dissenting. Roberts saying that he thought, implying this was a rash decision to reach out and decide this case. So it's definitely a herald of things to come.
And also a sign of Chief Justice Roberts' influence on the court now.
Absolutely. He has moved away from being the center of power to possibly being in the liberal wing, not because he's a liberal, but because he's trying to stay more moderate. I think Justice Gorsuch, who I have great personal respect for, we're in the same office, really comes out very harshly. He attacks the New York edict as being a color-coded executive edict that the Constitution won't tolerate. I mean, the ideology is really showing through, and despite Chief Justice Roberts' efforts to keep the court perhaps more in the middle of the road, I think he's going to end up on the losing end of that very often, and we'll see a lot more of that to come.
Shan Wu, thank you for your analysis.
Good to see you.